to Crafted and Creative, a podcast meant to uplift and engage BIPOC creatives, as well as create a sense of community for those that are looking to go down their own artistic journey. Today's guest is Stephen St. Pierre. He's a writer, producer, and director based in New York City. His credits include FBI Most Wanted, High Maintenance, Swagger, the short film Corey, which is now streaming on Amazon Prime, as well as the hit web series Room for Rent, which just won Best Web Series at the Winter Film Awards. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Congratulations on your show.
Thank you.
You're doing big things. You know, I love the space. This is nice.
Thank you. I just wanted to start off. I know you personally. I know
Yes.
that you have a background in sports. And so I wanted to get into what just inspired you to jump into being an artist and going into that space.
I mean, you know, you talked about the sports. I didn't realize during that journey of being an athlete, I was creating. Because when you're on the court and you're playing these sports, I played basketball. You know, you have a playbook and there's rules to the game. But you can always put your own sauce on it, your own flavor, and create poetry and have a rhythm to your game. So it was always in me. I just didn't know how to tap into that after I finished playing basketball. So after a few years of trying to find out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to create, continue to have that creative outlet, literally just saw two friends. You know, representation matters, as they say, right? I just saw two friends who were doing their thing that I went to college with, Princess Bay, real close friend of mine, and Antoinette Robertson. And I just saw their journey and how they were getting into it, and I was like, that looks interesting. That's probably something I can get into. And I literally just tapped in with them, asked them, where do I start? And I just Googled acting for beginners and just kind of just went from there.
Wow. So I know you started, talk about the comedy. Was it, you decided to go straight into comedy? Was it like, oh, I know I want to be a film actor right away? What was the decision making on how to approach your acting career?
I pretty much just said yes to anything to start off with because I was coming into it at a later stage and people usually find this artistic journey. It was just learning, figuring out what it is that I do want to do. You know, like you mentioned, what was it going to be? Acting straight out, comedy. So I said, I'm going to take an acting class. Then people in my acting class would suggest improv. I said, oh, you should do some improv. I said, all right, let me sign up for an improv class. Took an improv class. Someone in my improv class said, oh, you should try stand-up comedy. So I tried stand-up comedy for a few years. So trying all of those things, then I started to kind of like sift through what it was that I felt that I was best at and that I would want to be the vehicle that's going to help me be the storytelling creative that, you know, I would, you know, come to be and still am. And acting is where it kind of settled on acting at first. And then through acting, I discovered other parts of storytelling, of writing, and directing, and creating even more. Because as an actor, you know, we audition, we have to wait for opportunity. I couldn't wait around for opportunity anymore. I said, I got to just make my own thing, put myself out there, and people will gravitate to that and want me to work with them, you know, once I show them what I do.
Now, I know that, you know, with improv, you also did sketch writing. So with the sketch writing, did that kind of morph into being like, oh, I can kind of do sketch, so let me take this and roll it over to creating opportunities?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened because I was doing improv at UCB, which is pretty much writing on your feet because you're creating a story on the fly with a scene partner. So when that just kind of clicked to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm writing already. Fast forward to where when you finish doing improv, you have the opportunity to be sketch actors in the sketch classes that they teach there. So that's how they help the sketch students. They bring in the improv actors to read their sketches and then put up a show. So now I'm getting a crash course in sketch writing as an improv actor. So going through that process, I'm like, okay, all right, I see how that works. I see how they're structuring it and what have you. And that opportunity, again, just saying yes, someone who was a sketch writer in UCB, he got his own show at the People's Improv Theater, and he reached back out to me, hey, I'm doing a show at the People's Improv Theater, would love for you to be part of it. I was like, sure. And that show was SNL style. So they would bring in, let's say, 6 actors, and you would get together and just pitch ideas. And then after day 1 as an actor, just pitching ideas, day 2, you became a writer. You would have to write your own idea. And then by day 5, we're putting up a show in 1 week. And I did that for 2 years, just honing that craft. So by that 3rd year of me being in this artistic journey, I'm like, all right, I've accumulated all these skills in like just a short amount of time. And when I said it's time for me to create my own thing, I was very comfortable. I just knew it had to be something good to get people on board, you know, because I'm seeing, you know, when you start off, you're doing things that are like, you know, low budget productions, you know, janky promotions. You're doing things that aren't that great. So you see the mistakes, and then you do some things that are good. So you see the things that are being done well. So when it came time for me to do it, I'm like, okay, I know how I want it to look and be. I may not have all the resources myself. So let me try to find people who can do that and who's done it before. Just surround yourself with people who've done what it is that you're trying to do. So that's when the writing came, and it did stem from sketch writing because I already had that crash course. So sketch writing it's still story. You're still telling the story in a 3-act structure. So you have an arc. You have all the same elements as narrative film and feature film and TV. It's all the same. It's still telling a story. So all that translated to what I do now.
So the film that I mentioned earlier, Corey, which is on Amazon Prime, go watch it, y'all. It's really good. I was rewatching it, and it's really good.
Thank you.
I remember watching it the first time during the pandemic and being like so touched by how tender the story is. And, you know, you have the story of this family and this man that is essentially, you know, trying to protect his daughter, but also unfortunately going through his own process of losing people that he loved to substance abuse. Talk about that project. That was one of your first film projects, right?
It was the first film project.
You first.
Yeah, and it's still paying dividends to this day. You know, I wrote it in 2017, finished editing it, and got it together in 2019. But the initial idea came from after the whole comedy type of, you know, scene for me. I wanted to write something more drama, kind of show that side of me. And my resting face is pretty serious. I don't know, you know, I've been sitting around here today, people probably thought I was so serious because I'm just sitting there without a smile on my face. And that's just how I am, just, you know, my natural state.
Resting Mitch face.
Yeah, right. But, you know, pretty smiley, laughy kind of guy. But I wanted to write something to show that side of me because, you know, through the years, knowing and seeing how the perception is in the acting industry, entertainment industry, it's what people think you are. It's how you're going to work. So I had to kind of tap into that. But I didn't want to play thug number 2 and do things of that nature. You know, even though I'm from the street, I'm of the streets, I'm not from the streets. So, you know, that wasn't the life I lived. So I said, okay, what kind of story could I tell? And I wrote a couple things, and they were all pretty much just not panning out because I felt like I was trying to force a way for myself to look as opposed to just writing an authentic story. So one night, might have been like 1 a.m. in the morning, all these images came crashing into my mind about when I was young, you know, Brooklyn and Queens, of seeing this woman with her kid, and then the very next month, this woman's in the street begging me for money, a little 9, 10-year-old kid, so she can go use. So while I'm in bed thinking about that story, I was like, whatever happened to them? How was the kid's upbringing now that the mom was in the street? What was the dad going through that his wife wasn't home? And then I was like, okay, I think there's a story here. You know, so I had the images. I saw the dad and his kid sitting down doing homework and what that felt like, that energy in the room without that maternal figure and aura. So I just started writing, and I literally wrote it in a couple hours that night, the first draft, you know, and then you shape it and rewrite it. That was the spawn of the idea right then and there. And I was like, this is going to be the story. And I had a producer friend I knew, and I said, I can't come to her with just any old story. So when I got that story, I said, this is the one I'm going to bring to her, because I knew she would say, we need money. So I was like, it got to be something good if we're going to get some money to make a story. So
Yeah.
that was the one that just, it took home, it took me home.
So the visions just came so clear to you that
Clear.
you didn't have any, like, sometimes I know personally with myself, if I'm writing something, sometimes I hit, writer's block. I have to like sit and leave it and then come back to it. So for you, that wasn't your experience with your first project. You were able to just kind of like.
Yeah, I can't, there's a lot of things, as people, we just do things, right? We're just born and we're just here and we're trying to figure out why, right? So I realized and learned pretty early on that there's a lot of things I don't control and that I can't make happen. I just got to allow things to happen sometimes, and what will be, and I have faith in that. So when it comes to writing or storytelling, what have you, I will just sit and allow whatever comes to me to come and then write it down, as opposed to trying to force a story or make something in the story happen. The story is it's gonna guide you to where it needs to go. And I think a lot of people, when they have writer's block, is either they're editing themselves and they're trying to make something happen as opposed to allowing it to happen for them. So sometimes you may need to just take a step back, take a break, and then come back to the page and just let your thoughts be a free thought. And then you kind of take that and let the story take you. If you're following a character, the character's doing things. And it's letting you know what's going to happen, right? Knock on the door, wife comes home. What is he going to do? How does he deal with it? What are the possibilities? What can happen? He can either be mad at her, he can either embrace her, and you just follow whichever one it feels right for you. And then you can always go back and kind of adjust if you need to, but at least get something out so that you can go back and adjust if necessary.
Wow, so you were just like an open vessel to just like free flow and just let the creativity come to you. With the story being so prevalent to the things that particularly Black Americans have faced with drug use in this country, did you ever feel like, well, let me rephrase that. With that subject matter, did you feel like, oh, well, how do I take this matter and not turn it into like a trope or a stereotype? Did you ever have that thought while creating this type of story?
I felt like that could have been a trap if I followed the person who was the drug abuser. So my way of not falling into that was to follow the family, because they are victims of their loved ones' drug abuse. So it wouldn't become a stereotypical, this person's on the streets and they're doing this and doing that. It's more about the father figure at home with his daughter and how he's trying to now cope and raise a young woman who essentially lost her mother to this disease of drug addiction. So when we're telling that story, it's more about family, it's more about perseverance, and it's more about stopping a cycle so that the next generation doesn't have to go through that.
Yeah, so you just kept it, like you said, just kind of connected to the story and the prevalence of like possibly sharing this film and preventing someone else from having to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my next question, you brought it up earlier in terms of not wanting to play thug number 2 or thug number 3 and wanting to break the mold of typecasting.
Right.
When did you feel like you started to understand typecasting and how you were typecast being a newer actor coming into the industry?
Yeah, it's not easy because we have this dueling mind where people may see us one way, but we want people to see us a certain way. And again, sometimes we can't control that. You can't control how people perceive you. You can only live your life, and how it's being received by others is their interpretation of it. So in the acting industry, that's all it's about. It's about how the market, the industry, the producers, the people, the powers that be see you and where you fit in the world of a story. So they may have thought I'm thug number 1, thug number 2, which is a possibility. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I could play that on TV. Because I will, on TV, I will present that way, the way, unfortunately, history has shown of Black people and how we are and what we've done. Those kinds of stories are being told. But once you figure out, okay, how I'm being perceived, who I am, where's the intersection with that, and then you start to kind of tap into like, okay, these are the things that when I walk in a room, is being shown or is being received by others. So once you figure that out, then you can say, okay, what are the roles and what are the characters in the stories that are being told that I can bring that to? So whether it's someone that is, you're a person that when you walk in a room, you exude confidence, passion, kindness. Okay, what kind of person in a world is like that? A teacher, a social worker, a something in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to be like, okay, those are probably the type of characters I'm gonna play then. So even if I'm not that and I have this other side of me, but that's what I walk in a room with, and I say, okay, these are the kind of characters I can play, and I'll lean into those. And then, you know, in the case of Corey, I chose a nurse, a male nurse who's probably like an orderly / nurse, where he's kind of like having to be a little bit, you know, stern with things, but he's still showing love and still trying to help others. And once we just kind of like let go of what we want people to think we are and just really allow yourself to realize who you really are, it reveals itself of what you can be in the world on TV.
So, staying on the topic of stereotypes and typecasting, a lot of times, especially as newer actors, they kind of view themselves differently. And I know we've had this conversation of like viewing themselves as a certain type versus what the industry typecast you as. If you think that you're kind of like, you know, the action star or whatever, you know, you think you can play Rambo, but you're really like, you know, I don't know, the villain or the guy that gets beat up by Rambo. I don't know. But what would you say to people that like want to write things for themselves that's like, well, since the industry won't see me as that, then I have to therefore create that? Do you think to some extent, to play devil's advocate, that would go against the person, you know? Because even if it's footage that you use from your film,
it still may not work.
Yeah.
If you're writing something that's not being perceived that way. So it's going to be a tough thing to come to terms with, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can't play. So in your example of someone wanting to be an action star or like a superhero or what have you, it's an old movie, very old movie. I'm dating myself here, called Blank Man, Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's very just goofy, silly, funny, but he wanted to play some type of superhero. So he wrote a superhero that's going to be, you know, have some challenges and have to kind of be a little bit more awkward and quirky and offbeat and, you know, have some type of, you know, limitations to himself. So he's like, I still got to play the superhero, but I played it within who I am. So that's kind of how you combat that. You still like, okay, I got to see who I am and still put it into what it is that I want to do. So, you know, because you're not going to fool anybody by, if you're not someone who can play the top surgeon because you come off as blue collar, you know, steel mill type of guy. That might be tough. But maybe you're a doctor in a town that's lower income, doesn't have much of a higher class community, and you're like the one who kind of like shook out of that and you became the doctor in your town. So now the way you're looked at in that setting will give that for you. So just being creative with that, if you're going to write your own story, is really being creative with still showing how you're perceived, but doing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, because I feel like before we used to see actors, like, of course, playing into their types early on in their careers, playing like the stereotypical
to work.
roles. Yeah, to work, to get work.
And
then years later, they break out and do these roles that are like, wait, what? Like, and I guess that is kind of Hollywood's downfall to some extent. It's like, it makes sense because it's like, we do give off and certain auras, and we give off certain things. Like, I guess there's some bit of truth in
it's just,
stereotypes.
it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it's all about making money and this, that, so we're going to do what's easy.
Right.
How does Deja look? What would she look like to the general population? Okay, we just put that in fits. When people watch it, they can stay engaged. If it's something that's off or doesn't work, they're like, I don't believe this. And now people are tuning out, you know. But like you said, when people start off in their stereotypes and then later on they flip it on his head, now you've gained some equity in what you've shown the population, the audience. So when you flip it, everyone's like, oh, I didn't expect that. That's cool now that they did this. Because like someone like Donald Glover, who's done a certain thing the whole time, and then when he does Mr. and Mrs. Smith and flips on his head, everyone's like, oh, that's a interesting, cool thing that he's doing now, because we've known him for this thing this whole time, and now he's doing this. You know, John Travolta has been the good guy, the lead, the debonair, romantic, and then he turns and does from Paris with Love, shaves his head bald, and he's very dark and distant. So it's like, oh, that's cool, because he's gained equity with the audience already. So it's hard when you're coming out fresh and new, nobody knows you, and you're just trying to like force feed something that we don't believe or see yet. So it is a catch-22 of like, all right, you got to start off with your type, what you're seen as, get to work, get in the doors, and then you can start kind of experimenting and branching out from there. You know, so you have your wheelhouse, you keep knocking that, and then you can kind of branch out slowly around it, slowly, and get further and further away from it as you go in the industry. Because when you get older, you start to change too. You know, so you can start off one way, 10 years later, you may present a different way now, and then you'll pivot to that.
I love that. I want to transition back into your writing. Since you're writing for yourself a lot, do you feel like you open up that process to someone else? Are you sharing your work with other people, or are you kind of going and just kind of trusting your own intuition, ultimately, since this is something that you would be portraying?
Right, yeah. No, I definitely am objective about it. Once I write it, I'm writing it I'm approaching it in different segments. So when I'm writing it, I'm just a writer writing the story. Then once it's written, I'm now getting feedback, because I'm not an actor yet in it. I'm just writing a story. So then when I get my feedback, have people critique it, I workshop it. Then once I get it to a certain point, and now if I'm also directing the thing that I wrote, then now I'd switch to the director hat. I'm no longer the writer and director. I'm like just a director, and I'm approaching it from the director's point of view. That process, then when we get to set, I'm an actor now. You know, well, director, actor, if I'm directing it. But from an actor, now I'm an actor. I'm on set and I'm acting out the piece. So I do get feedback from it, because even though I may be playing the character, it still needs to be a fully fleshed out real character that people, when they read it or see it, will believe and be engaged with. And I can have all these ideas and thoughts in my mind, but I'm not the only one watching it. So it has to be something that I am confident enough, at least if I have a few people read it, I'm like, okay, this resonates and it really makes sense to others than just myself. Because I could be all day writing, and I've worked on projects like that where a person would do everything, and then when you watch and see it, you're like, it's limited. It hasn't expanded. It doesn't breathe, because you have your own ideas, and you've never got any other input to see where it can expand on. You know, that's from my improv background. You know, you do a scene, you don't do a scene alone. You know, you build. So you have another person to build a scene to get it to its optimal point. It's the same thing with writing something. You know, that's why you have coverage and you send it off and get people's input on it, because you need other eyes, other ideas, other minds to build on your own idea. And you still get the writing credit, so I don't know why people don't do it.
I mean, it's all about collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So collaboration is like really big for your creative process in the end.
Absolutely, you know, because it's just, it really, yeah, you could think you're a genius and, oh, this is a great idea and what have you, but it's still going to be limited, because it's just you. It's just your own thoughts, you know. So once you have other thoughts, the collaboration, as you spoke of, it'll really elevate your work. You know, I'm a proponent of creating your own work and sharing it with others. Have people see it, have people read it. If you're editing it, send the first draft or first cut to somebody, get their thoughts. You may not agree with it, but at least you got somebody's input. You know, they may say 10 things, and one thing you'd be like, oh yeah, I like that. And then that changed it and elevated it, you know. So yeah, definitely, this is a collaborative field that we work in. So it's all about collaboration.
How do you know, like, when you're writing, you've written things for yourself and you've also written things with other people. How do you know when an idea is like, oh no, I want to play this, versus an idea that's like, oh, actually, you know what, I can give this to someone?
Yeah, usually if I'm writing for myself, it's a conscious decision of like, okay, I'm gonna write this thing and do this for me. Um, when I'm writing for or with others, it really is kind of decided beforehand of like whatever I'm going into, who the character is going to be for, or if it's going to be something that I play in as well. The only time if I'm writing something I know that I want it to be for me, but then like the time period is different, I'm like, okay, I can't play that age anymore. Then I know, okay, I'm writing this, even though it is me, someone else is gonna play it.
So you wouldn't try to play a little, little 15, like
Get
all
out
the
there,
roles are for me.
shave my
the
beard off.
Like I could do it, guys.
Like, isn't it AI technology now? Can we make me look younger? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it really is just decided beforehand. You know, when it came to Corey, that was a decision. Like, I'm writing something for myself as like a calling card. I was still new to the industry, so I'm like, this is gonna be a calling card to showcase myself. And then Room for Rent was me kind of just improvising and doing things. So that kind of just became me. So the other stories that I've written and co-written has been for, you know, for others really. It's just a story. We just write the story and then we cast it. It wasn't necessarily I'm going into it thinking
that is for you.
That is for me.
It's not like, oh, you know, we can add a character. Don't we want to add a character?
The story's first and most important. You know, I'm not gonna sacrifice trying to just squeeze myself into it if it doesn't serve the story. You know, it's all about serving the story first.
Yeah. So in the film, The Ties That Bind. We're taking it back.
Where'd you find that one?
We're taking it back.
Oh my goodness.
We'll talk after.
How'd you find that? You actually saw it?
I saw it.
What?
You play a...
Oh, let me stop.
You play... I told you I was going to do my research. You play a...
you hired a private investigator or something? Like,
you know,
did you hire? You hired a private investigator. You hired a private investigator. That's what happened. All right.
I was the private investigator.
Okay.
Let me tell you. But in the film, you play a MySpace Facebook rapper whose wife has made some choices. But, you know, there's a plot twist at the end that you decide to make some choices too as a character. But that film gives such an ensemble base where it kind of reminded me of a little bit of The Office, where we have these different characters kind of come together in this one room.
Right.
What about that experience do you remember that also included some of your ensemble comedy experience? Do you remember using any of that experience? Because that was an early on film.
Yeah, that was early on. I think it was during the time while I was heavy into the comedy scene. So and I think that's why they cast me in it, because they saw that I had that comedic timing and that kind of building and bouncing off each other in that world. And that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. Dig. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's you see, especially that time, years ago, you saw those kinds of people who was trying to be rappers. They posted on their MySpace and their Facebook or what have you early on, those early days. So just kind of tapping into that and work with an ensemble, because that was actually a 48-hour film festival.
Oh, okay.
That was done for. So we all met 2 days prior, and they wrote the film. We had a read. The next day, we were filming it. So we all just kind of got together and just started just messing around and trying to make this thing work. And that was, it was fun. I mean, it was fun to do, honestly. It was fun to do, you know. It was a great experience, tapping into the comedy, working off everybody else. And like you mentioned about the characters, everyone was a character, like just even as themselves. So I think everyone was cast appropriately and it fit. So it was pretty seamless just working off of people. And I forgot the question because I was still thinking about just how you just found this old movie.
I will dig, okay?
But yes, it was during the time of me in improv and sketch, and so it was really just a seamless transition.
So was it something, I know you said it was for the 48-hour film festival. Is with that process, is it something that you all write together? Or is it just one writer that's like writing it out and
Yeah, it's kind of one. It's kind of like you talk about like what kinds of things you want to do. Usually there'll be like a lead producer who puts in more of the funds, and so they kind of take the lead in what the story will be. So she had an idea. She kind of, and then she gathered folks. So you have to like kind of recruit people. We all come together. She told us the idea. Everyone's like, great, great, great. It sounds good. Da da da. Okay, I'll play this. You play that. You play this. And then the writer, we're all together. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna go write. He goes write for a few hours, whatever he's doing.
okay.
And then he brings it back to us. Then we all kind of go through it and read it. And funny enough, you said about the end. It was actually a little bit more
Oh.
for my character.
Oh.
And when they brought it back to me, the writer, I said, I'm
Spicy.
not going all the way there. I was like,
Okay.
I'm not going all the way there.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you a little bit
Yeah.
of like hinting at it or something. So I had to improvise that part
Okay.
because they didn't know how or what to do with it. And I said, I got it. I'll make it look like something for you guys since that's what you want the character to show. So that was the decision, what I went with, of just that slight pause and kind of highlighting his body and, you know, what he did as a wrestler or what have you. And then just took that slight pause to make it look like, oh, did he like him? Did he sleep with him too or no? And then you kind of just get out of it and it goes back to him talking to his wife or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting.
So your writer brain was still kind of like pitching in with certain ideas to advocate for yourself as an actor in that role. Do you feel like being a multi-hyphenate, does that ever interfere with your work? Do you feel like you're able to categorize? Because I've been on projects where some actors love
Do too much.
yeah, do too much, think, you know, and
Yeah.
write a director, and it's like,
It's tough. It's not easy. You know, it's not easy. I've found myself in situations where I'm urged to say something or do something more if I'm like an actor on a set and I'm seeing things that, as far as like production wise, isn't going efficiently, and my producer brain wants to jump in and, hey, maybe if you did this or do this, then I have to remind myself I'm an actor on this set.
and this is more so on an independent level because I don't want nobody. Or do you feel like
Oh, no.
on your larger sets?
Oh no, when it comes to network TV, it felt like they're paying me to come here and act, and I'm just here as an actor.
Yeah.
Even if I did see something like, but you know, 9.9 times out of 10, they know what they're doing. It's, you know, this is a well-oiled machine, and you know, multi-million-dollar productions. They're gonna get people that already know what they're doing. You know, when it was in the indie sets, it's a little tougher. You know, people come together, put something together, and you understand it. You know, everyone's trying to make something. So on those sets is where I have to just be like, okay, I'm an actor. You know, if I'm producing, I'm a producer. I'm not directing it. If I'm directing it, the producer has to do their job, make sure the food is ready, make sure this is that. I'm directing. I have to stay in the creative mindset. So yeah, being multi-hyphenate, those parts of your brains click in when you see something happen. So you have to consciously kind of like block it out, like this is what I'm doing. But at the same time, it's tough because if you're on a set, you want it to succeed, especially an indie set, you know, because you know everyone's here putting in their time and blood, sweat, and tears, and it's not much money. No one's really probably making money, and you want the thing to succeed. So it's like, if I can help over here, I'll see if there's an opening for me to lend a hand or lend a voice, you know, without stepping on your toes. But you know, that's something you fill out when you're in a room or on a set.
Yeah, that you kind of just feel like, is this the space for me to offer a suggestion? Especially, I mean, across all, whether it be independent or network, it is a collaboration thing. And I know for me, stepping into more of a director, producer role, sometimes you may miss things. You may, you know, and it's just knowing who your tribe is. And I guess also working with people that you feel comfortable with. Do you feel like networking has been important in how you decide to go about stepping into being a multi-hyphenate and writing and producing? How has networking been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly watching people and seeing what they're doing from afar. If I've met somebody once in passing and we follow each other on social media, what have you, I'm watching. Whenever I go to events, I'm talking to people and getting engaged. Whether it's whatever you do or what have you, it's more about who you are as a person. So that's when I'm networking. I don't like to call it networking. I call it relationship building, because you're building a relationship with somebody, you know. So who you are as a person is what's gonna really speak to me, and let me know if you're someone that I could bring value to first and foremost. When you're networking, is always how can I help you, and then in turn, if you're able to bring value to me at any point in time in our relationship. I think people move too fast when they network. They try to just meet somebody and be like, "Oh, what are you doing? Can you put me in it, or can you do this for me, or what?" And the person's like, "I don't even know who you are, really. Yeah, you seem cool in this environment, but you could be an a-hole on set. You can be a tyrant. You could be someone who's shows up late. And I don't know you." So you build relationships over time, and I constantly watch people and what they do, their work ethic, how they show up, how they present themselves on set. Are they friendly? Are they kind? Are they initiators? Do they, are they talking bad about somebody who's not doing well or doing a good job or what have you? Or are they inspiring them and trying to motivate them to doing better? Those are the kinds of things I look for when I'm networking. And then when it's time for you to do something, you call on those people. Hey, I'm doing something. Would love to have you be a part of it. This is what it is, and this is what I think it could be. And if it's exciting to them, they come on board. So networking has definitely helped me because I don't just ask people for things immediately. I take my time building a relationship, and then when it's time for me to do something, it's more of a I see what you've been doing, and I see what you're trying to do. I'm over here doing this thing. I've seen you're trying to get into being a producer. So how about you come be a first AD on my set, and you can work with me closely on the producer side, and you're seeing what I'm doing behind the scenes as a producer. So I'm still helping the person, and they're helping me also. So we're bringing value to each other.
So what would you say then to the first-time writer that has no connections, that just has a script and an idea? Like you said, you don't necessarily suggest that they just go and say, "I have a script, produce this, and do all these things for me." What would you say to that person should be the first step for them?
First step, I would say, depending on what city you're in or where you are, look for any local film groups that may be holding events in your area. I know I'm from New York. There's Black Film Space. There's Black TV Film Collective. They're always having events and gathering people of all disciplines in the entertainment industry. So you go out and put yourself out there. You go, you meet people, you ask questions, you allow them to ask you questions. When they ask you, "Hey, well, what are you doing?" "Oh, since you asked, I just wrote a script," or what have you. They may ask, "Oh, I would love to read it," or where are you in the process? And you can say, "Oh, you know what, I just wrote it. So right now I'm going to try to start looking for some producers." And someone may offer themselves to help you. If they don't, you just build a relationship. "Hey, we'd love to connect and stay in contact with you," or what have you. And then once you follow up and you just ask about what they're doing, if I can see your work, then maybe you pitch them once you've opened that door of like, "Hey, I wrote a script, would love for you to take a read. I'm looking for producers. If you know anybody, I would love if you can recommend someone to me." So you use the contacts that you've made to ask for recommendations, and then if that person can help you directly, maybe they'll offer their services, or they may recommend you to someone else that they trust and know for you to work with. But it really is just kind of going out there, meeting people in your local film groups. And if you can't get out, there's nothing nearby remotely to you, there's Facebook groups with local film groups where you can just kind of literally just put a post in there, looking for producers. If you don't have a budget, if you have a budget, this is my budget. If I don't have a budget, hey, I'm looking to collaborate. I can, whatever you need done, I can maybe barter with you on what we're doing, but this is what I have and this is what I'm trying to do. And if you write a good enough story, you'll be surprised how many people want to work with you, because people just want to tell good stories. Financially, yeah, we know one project, one thing is not gonna, make us rich or what have you. It really is a journey in the process. So the more great stories you can tell and put out great content in the world, 20 years later you look back and like, "Oh, I built a nice career, I've made money, and I'm doing my thing." So I think that'll be best for someone who's just starting out to look into.
So I wanted to go back on budgets and how how would a person go about crowdfunding? What are some of the ways that you can decide to build up your budget for a short film where you're like, "You know what, I think that this project is deserving of having some financial support"?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I crowdfunded my first film. The number one thing when it comes to that with budgeting is I think a lot of first-time filmmakers are people who are newer, and it's no fault of their own. They don't know yet. I was fortunate to already have been acting for a few years and been on many sets and been around people who have been producing and doing things where I can learn and pick from, see what not to do, what to do. That when it came time for me, I said, okay, I can have an idea today. I don't have to try to shoot this next week or a month from now. I can have this idea and then now create a plan of like, okay, 6 months from now, I'm gonna shoot, but I'm gonna start my plan today. So you crowdfund early. You make your plan of what amount of money you need or you think you may need, by doing research, maybe some locations that you want to shoot at. You'll probably make some calls, find out, hey, how much is it to rent this place or what have you. You put a small little budget together of what it may take, what you may pay your actors or crew, find out, people's rates or what have you. Just Google, DPs and see what their rates are. And you just kind of put, add all that up and be like, all right, I'm gonna need about $4,000, roughly. Maybe you'll say, okay, I'm gonna try to crowdfund $5,000 just to have a little incidental money. And you start today. You start by what's the story I'm telling. I'm gonna write that out so that when people see my crowdfunding and read the story I'm trying to tell, it's engaging, compelling, it's something that people wanna buy into, something that people are gonna wanna see. And then you start reaching out to people, hey, I'm gonna be launching a crowdfunding campaign on this date. I would love on this date if you would, be kind to donate or, and lend to my film. Instead of just kind of putting it out and letting it be in the universe and no one's really seen it yet or know it's even coming. You're kind of pre-gaming and you're setting people up to know, I'm gonna need you to come out their pockets in about 2 months. And then you follow up and keep following up and letting them know, hey, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's here. And you can usually get a wave of people because they know, they see that you stayed on top of it, that you have something that you're serious about. Because when people know you're serious about it, that's when they'll lend money to it. If you just throw something out and be like, hey, can you just get some money? They're like, this doesn't even look like you're even serious about it, So it's really about the pre-planning and setting it up and constant contact and direct communication. I know we have social media and Facebook and TikTok and all these things, but that direct contact is still number one. If you directly contact your people and let them know I'm raising money for my film, this is what it's about, and we're launching on this date in the future, I would love your support. And then you follow up again in 2 weeks. Hey, just wanted to update you. We're still set to launch on this date. We've got this actor is going to be in it, or whatever things you can use to kind of update and let people know what's happening and getting them maybe a little bit excited because now they're on a journey with you, because these people, once they support, especially financially, they're on that ride with you. With Corey, I had about 101 backers, and to this day, I still update them. To this day, because if I do something again, they're already on this ride, and they're like, "Oh, we loved what he did last time. He always updated, and we felt like we're part of it." And they'll probably be more inclined to, support again. So you want to take people on a journey with you, constantly, stay in communication, let them know what's going on, what you need the money for, where it's going to, and anything that that you feel can interest people, whether it be an actor or a cool location you're shooting at, something that's maybe local that people know. And you're like, oh, I'm shooting at outside Madison Square Garden. Like, we're gonna have that in our film, and it's gonna be cool. And if I pay my money in, I'm part of that too. Like, yeah, you are. So it's really just keeping that engagement with people for crowdfunding. And then you have private investors, which are pretty tough, but people have money and need something to do with it. Like right now, I'm like heavy into real estate, so I'm watching like, okay, people, you make your money, but you don't want just cash sitting in the bank. So there are people out there who's like looking to put their money into things, whether it is to make money or just to be part of something that's interesting and cool. So it really is just getting out into different environments and communicating and talking with people. I know some people saying you're introverts and all that, but it really is just communicating, just talking, having a conversation, and letting people know what you do. Because once that's out there, they may communicate that to somebody else and get back to you or what have you. But if you're at home just not saying anything or putting just wishing, nothing will happen at all.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
So that transition into any last words of wisdom for that new actor, or not even that new actor, just the actor that wants to create things for themselves and want to, have the career, create the career that they want.
Yeah, I would say, you just start. I've come across a lot of actors like, well, I don't know how to write. I was like, did you even try yet? Just start writing things down. If you have a story, write it down. There's probably somebody in your circle that writes. So if you have something, you can always just put out. You can put an Instagram story and say, hey, I have this cool idea about this, and I would love if someone would help me write it. You'll be surprised how many people would jump at it if it's a cool idea, a cool, log line. So as a new actor, I would just say, really just put yourself out there, start writing, put out to your network that you're trying to create something. Because there are people out there who want to create and do things. They just don't have the other parts of the resources to do so. So if you all come together and collaborate, you can make something. It's really not, I've seen films made for $0 and are good. It just took a lot of just passion and people, and they was able to make something.
Okay. And now what's next for yourself?
What's next for me? I'll be shooting a film this fall. I did a film called The Pill 5 years ago with Franco Clark, my guy. He's a director. So he's doing another film that I'll be starring in. So we'll be shooting that. I can't say too much about what it is about or what have you, because we'll be shooting it and the story isn't out yet. So I'll be shooting that film, and then I will be doing a play. I can't say where it is and what it is yet, but I will be doing another play coming up after filming that movie in the winter, top of 2025. And from there it's just continuing to get room for rent out there. The goal for that right now is to start getting it in front of some networks and seeing if we can get someone to pick it up. And just continue to create.
Can I plug?
Sure.
I'm gonna plug. He also has a audition workshop that he teaches.
Yes.
So I'm gonna plug that. So it happens monthly.
I do a self-tape with St. Pierre audition workout where it's pretty much a drop-in gym for actors to come in, work on some material, get in front of the camera, and just kind of just work a 2 to 3 page scene and just really, really work that acting muscle, especially these times where things are a little bit slower. I know sometimes people are sitting around waiting for auditions and they're not working their muscle. So this is an opportunity for you to come in and do some work as if you were taping something for an audition. Yeah.
And where can people find you?
You can find me at Steven St. Pierre on Instagram, or iStevenSt.Pierre.com. And everything is there. It's just just put my name in the Googles and things will come up and you can find me.
Yes. Okay. I'm so happy you were able to come.
Oh, thank you.
Makes my heart happy.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for watching this episode of Crafted and Creative. Give us a review on iTunes. Also give us a like on YouTube and follow us on our socials at Crafted and Creative Podcast. And I will see you all in the next episode.